Out there in the field here, or out in the city, I should say here. Daniel, an unusual year. But what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, David, it's very unusual, as most major events have been here in Israel throughout the world, given the coronavirus pandemic. Definitely not the sort of festive atmosphere that you typically expect on Israel's Independence Day, the 72nd anniversary of Israel's establishment. I did walk throughout the streets of Tel Aviv, tried to walk along the coast, not only to get a sense of people who were celebrating, but also to get a sense of how the Israeli police may try and enforce the restrictions. There is a closure imposed throughout the country today. There was also a closure imposed yesterday, but the Israeli police were far less, aggressive, you could say, in enforcing it today. I did see Israeli police stopping people in the streets, asking them where they are. Today, you're only allowed to be 100 meters from your home, and so I ventured straight from those 100 meters, which we do have the authority to do as media, covering the way that the public is reacting to the coronavirus pandemic and how it coincides with Israel's Independence Day. You know, there were people holding parties in their balconies, seemingly in line with the health ministry's restrictions, not too many people. And then, of course, the annual flyover, which I just saw happening behind me to this year. That was also different. We're not seeing the F-16s, the F-35s, those sort of planes that people line up throughout the coast of Israel from Tel Aviv all the way north to Rosh Hashanah, the northernmost part of Israel's coastline, to get a look at Israel's Air Force in action. This year, we're looking at it. We really saw acrobatic flight patterns that were taking place also along the coast, but more importantly here, David, of course, taking place over the hospitals throughout the country for the healthcare professionals who have been working tirelessly throughout the entire coronavirus pandemic. They were paying their respects for those workers, for all doctors, nurses, staff of hospitals, everyone that's taking part in the effort to combat the spread of the coronavirus here in Israel. And we definitely saw them honoring those workers with a very, very impressive display. It may not be what we saw last year, but still an impressive display of Israel's Air Force's military prowess. Also, helicopters were standing by, I believe, to actually film the events, but still impressive, but definitely not what we're used to here for Israel's Independence Day, David.
Yeah, a tinge of disappointment. I believe I can speak for most people around the country here. As you mentioned it correctly, it's an exciting part of the annual Independence Day here. The flyover, all the combat aircraft, absent, like so many other things from this year's tributes and celebration, but wonderful to see these planes, certainly in tribute to the medical workers that we're showing on the screen here now, who have been just so front and center in all this pandemic here. But Daniel, the country's in lockdown today. It's supposed to last until 8 p.m. tonight. Dramatic lightening, though, is supposed to, of the restrictions, supposed to take place already tomorrow?
Yeah, David, exactly. We're supposed to see tomorrow a very different situation in the streets of Israel, Tel Aviv, every city really throughout the country, except for those that are under a lockdown until Sunday. Cities like Netivot have neighborhoods and streets, Bet Shemesh as well, places where there were recent outbreaks. Those areas will still be in a sort of lockdown at least until Sunday, and the Israeli government will have to reassess the situation there, as well as other areas throughout the country that maybe have been more affected more recently by the coronavirus pandemic. But what we can say is that we are going to see, likely in the next 24 hours, a very heavy loosening of the restrictions. Now, it's been a little bit confusing, I have to say, for the public that I've spoken to today. I saw people that were stopped by the police, and they told me that they didn't know they weren't allowed to leave more than 100 meters from their home, because the day before they were allowed to exercise 500 meters from their home. So kind of the going back and forth is definitely a little bit tricky for people to understand, and probably also tricky for the Israeli police to enforce, because there's always this effort by the Israeli police to maintain the restrictions and enforce them on the behalf of the Israeli government, the Israeli health ministry, but also to make sure the public is well informed. And so certainly we can say that today is a lockdown. People have to stay within 100 meters from their home. Police are enforcing it, at least here in Tel Aviv, from what I've seen firsthand, stopping people. I haven't seen them hand out any fines, but I did see at least 5 different occasions, and I'm talking about around 500 yards from one another in that very small area seen police stopping many people that were walking in the street. Not too many people are out and about, but anyone that was asked where they live. If they are more than 100 meters from their home, they were requested to get back towards that vicinity and that proximity where they're allowed to be outside and they're allowed to exercise. But I did not see them giving out fines. Nobody was arrested, and we have seen in recent days interesting little incidents between Israeli police, especially on the beach, getting surfers out of the water. So it's really been a difficult sort of task for the law enforcement officers here and the Israeli soldiers that are taking part in that effort as well, to try and not be too aggressive, but also try and enforce the measures to really mitigate the spread of the virus and keep the public safe. At the end of the day, that is the ultimate goal from what we understand here by the Israeli government, the health ministry, and of course the Israeli police, who are enforcing all of these measures, David.
Yeah, there really is a sense that people are